To order. Mark, can we get roll call?
Representative Campbell.
Here.
Representative Knapp.
Here.
Representative Larson.
Here.
Representative Lawley.
Here.
Representative Riggins.
Here.
Representative Schmidt.
Here.
Representative Tarver.
Here.
Representative Weber.
Here.
Chairman Heiner.
Is excused. Almost said absent. No, that would have been naughty. Excused.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
All righty. Well, we got Senate File 102. Who would like to present it? Senator Boner, please start when you're ready.
All right. Well, it's good to be here, representatives. Brian Boner, Senate District 2, and so I'll be presenting Senate File 102 here today. Now, this bill is recognizing that, we got a lot of moving parts here when it comes to our energy infrastructure throughout the American West. There's obviously a huge demand for especially new loads. You hear lots of, talk about data centers and just the fact that we haven't really built any base load power in far too long. And we're well behind the bell curve, I think. So this bill doesn't really make any decisions for us, but it does begin the process of gathering information as to what our needs may be in the future and what our, what potential policy changes we may consider as a result to the increase in demand for more electrons. So this is exactly what it says. It's the study that the Energy Authority, frankly, is probably going to do anyways. This is our opportunity for public input. It's an opportunity for the legislature to weigh in on the way that this study is conducted. And it's an opportunity for the public to do so as well. And so that's kind of the general idea. Mr. Chairman, I'll go ahead and go through the bill if that's okay. So basically 2 phases here. The first one at the beginning of page 2 talk about 3 different load growth scenarios, basically medium or low, medium, and high, of course, assuming some sort of load growth over the years. And then looking into different possibilities as to how to deal with that load growth, advanced transmission technology. So basically making the current transmission system more efficient. There's technologies available to do that. Any potential gaps in the transmission needs based off of those growth scenarios. And then you go into phase 2. And looking at some of the policy changes that other Western states are looking at, such as regional transmission organizations, independent system operators, real-time or extended day-ahead markets. These are basically, an RTO, for example, is basically a multilateral agreement among utilities as to how they buy and sell electricity. Right now, basically, the line is just our eastern border. Everywhere east of there has some sort of RTO where the whole region kind of decides just how they're going to be buying and selling electricity among utilities. Right now, we just have bilateral agreements between different utilities, arguably not the most efficient, not in the best interest of the ratepayers. And so the issue that we're seeing develop is that California has their own ISO. They're saying now that they want to expand throughout the American West and that they're going to play nice, and it's just going to be about buying and selling electrons, and that's it. No politics involved. We'll see if that's true. That may be something we look into as part of the study. But we have a very good example just to our east with Southwest Power Pool. What that is, it's literally just a business arrangement. And they're just providing stability in the market and providing stability for the utilities. And there's probably some electrical cooperatives that do business in Wyoming who are already participating in, if they're in South Dakota or North Dakota or Nebraska, they're probably already participating in that Southwest Power Pool. And so that's going to be the policy decision that we may have to make. Not in the studies, we had some good input in the Senate. We're not going to necessarily assume that we're going to do something like that, but we're at least looking into it. And so we had some input from the utilities, especially saying, let's not just assume that we're going down this path. Let's just gather information. And maybe we don't do it. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but I do know that we need to gather information because Nevada, for example, has required that all their utilities to join an RTO by 2030. I'm guessing which way they're going to go there. You're probably looking to their neighbors to the west there. I'm not suggesting that's right for us, but that's a broader discussion that's being had throughout the Western energy grid. So going on to page 4, we have a requirement for who's going to be involved with this study, and basically all of the utilities, Public Service Commission, Office of Super Advocate. Then we have some deadlines in here for when they're going to report back to the both the corporations and the Merrill's Committee. So phase 1, November 1st, 2027, phase 2, September 1st, 2028. And that's the deadline. There's nothing preventing them from doing that sooner. So basically that's the bill, no appropriation. That Energy Authority can do this with their current funds. So no appropriation there. And that's the bill, Mr. Chairman. I'll stand for questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Wow, you did a great job.
Okay, there you go.
Would anyone else like to speak on this bill? Rob, good morning. Please introduce yourself and begin.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Rob Krieger. I'm the Executive Director of the Energy Authority. The sponsor of the bill, I think, laid it out really well. I just wanted to touch on a couple topics, especially for a couple of you that are on the Corporations Committee as well. This last interim, we led a interim topic to look at large load that might be coming to this state and what we can do about that, as well as third-party generation and how the state wants to kind of handle that policy decision. In those discussions, there was a lot of questions around what is this load growth, right? Is it going to be these crazy numbers we see? Is it going to be lower? Is it somewhere in the middle? So that's where we kind of started down the path of, hey, let's do a study on this to get some facts and figures for you all and for the public to see, if it's low, if it's high, what that could mean. Then the good bringer of the bill, mentioned that he was looking at doing this. And so similar to the econ study we did with you all last year, just getting your input in it before we go out to RFP. He mentioned our neighboring states, Utah, Colorado, a lot of the Western states are doing something very similar to see how their states tackle transmission in these load growth scenarios as well. And then lastly, I just touch on the dates. I feel confident we can get this done sooner than what's in there, but that was just a little cushion for us in case something goes awry. So stand for any questions.
Any questions? Seeing none, Rob, you did a great job too.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the room that would like to speak on this?
Good morning, Mr.
Good
Chairman.
morning, please.
Members of the committee. My name is Mike Robinson. I'm the chairman of the Wyoming Public Service Commission. With me is our chief counsel, John Burbridge. I really don't have a lot to add other than, we plan to fully participate in this process and offer whatever help we can. I think the information that this study will bring will be useful, and there are looming decisions critical to the state that are coming up probably within the next 5 years, and I think this is a step in the right direction.
Perfect. Do you have anything to add? Any questions? Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this? No one's online. I will close public testimony. Committee, move the bill by Martha. Second by Schmidt. Any discussion? JR, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. They certainly addressed the questions I was going to have in section 4 about who's going to be participating, the advisory, and that seems to me widespread enough to alleviate anything concerns I had. And then, of course, who was going to pay for it? That was the other question I had, and he answered that. So I'm happy. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Perfect. Any other discussion? All right. Martha, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is really, to me, a very important bill. We have kind of talked around the edges of this for a couple of years now. And things are moving quickly in this space, and we don't have all the facts we need as the legislature. I think even the executive branch, what we need to know in order to effectively develop policy that will help us navigate what's coming. So I think it's a very important bill, and that's why I support it. And I think they did, it was a really good job, those that worked together to put this together in a very balanced way, and I really appreciate that. Thorough.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak on the bill? All right. Do I sense question? Question being called. Mark, please.
Representative Campbell.
Aye.
Representative Knapp.
Aye.
Representative Larson.
Aye.
Representative Lawley.
Aye. Aye.
Representative Riggins.
Aye.
Representative Schmidt.
Aye.
Representative Tarver.
Aye.
Representative Weber.
Aye.
Chairman Heiner.
Excused.
This is a do pass. 9-0.
Wonderful. Who'd like to take this? You take it, Martha? Thank you. All righty. Before us, we have Senate File 123.
I should have. I know.
Senator, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, committee. Mayor Beitman here. On the bill, Energy Dominance Fund, I'll give you a little history of how this bill came to be. I sent you this morning the briefing memo I presented to the White House. It should be in your inbox. So you can, it's got more of an executive summary, the kind of the high level, the why behind the bill and what the high points of the bill are. And then I've also sent you the letter of support from the White House on this. So when President Trump got reelected and took office back in January, I had talked to the speaker, I talked to Rob about the importance of getting Wyoming out in front of the new administration, meeting with all the people at Department of Interior, Department of Energy, all the different agencies related to Wyoming Energy, and the White House themselves, and the newly founded Energy Dominance Council at the White House. My goal was to have Wyoming at the tip of the spear for President Trump's energy dominance goals. We have all the oil, gas, coal, uranium, rare earths, everything he needs to make America energy dominant and energy self-sufficient, to rebuild our supply chains and do all the things. And so after discussions out there, Rob and I had probably been out there 3 or 4 times this year. This idea kind of came to be after talking with the White House about how can we mobilize capital quickly to get these major projects done in short order. Because as you know, I've been a proponent of tackling the ESG problem for years. Big banks have not lent to oil and gas and coal companies and fossil fuel companies for a while now. So being able to get financing for these huge projects is difficult. And so this clever idea where we're intercepting a portion of the severance tax that's paid by oil and gas and coal companies to build out infrastructure that we need, critical infrastructure for our nation and for our state, is quite frankly, a genius idea, if you don't ask me. I mean, I think using money that the minerals industry has already paid in taxes to leverage some of these big one-time projects that Rob will discuss here in a little bit, what we envision for for this money to go to for some of these major one-time off projects that we'd like to get done before the president's term is up before he leaves office, so it can't be stopped by the next administration. So that's kind of the big picture why we're here. The bill itself, it's basically for the next 2 years, we're going to intercept that OFSTA 1% severance tax that I talked about to fully fund this program. It should be what, 105 million is what we're roughly looking at anticipating coming in. 105 million, in my opinion, is just a drop in the bucket for some of these big projects that we could possibly be seeing. I'd love to see the Keystone Pipeline come through Wyoming. I'd love to see a uranium conversion plant be located in Wyoming. There's only going to be one built in the United States in the next 20 years. Why not Wyoming? All these big projects, a new coal unit, maybe at Dry Fork, maybe at another coal power plant somewhere in Wyoming. We need power in this country, and Wyoming can supply that power. And I'd like to see us be the first new coal-fired unit in the United States in the last 25 years. Wyoming should be at the tip of the spear. I'd like to see a carbon dioxide pipeline to go up to the Bighorn Basin to unlock all that oil that's sitting there, that's trapped in there. I mean, that's a one-time project. You're not competing with the private sector when you're talking these huge one-time projects. But those are all capital-intensive projects. We have an administration that's willing to move heaven and earth to make these things happen. Permitting reform. Basically, the gist of our conversations with Interior and EPA and Energy and the White House were, you tell us what you need and we'll do it. And if you have any issues or bottlenecks, we need to know, and we'll get rid of those in the 24 hours notice. So I've never worked with an administration like this before. They're ready to rock and roll. They want to get these things done. And that's why we need this bill, Mr. Chairman. And I'll stand for questions, or we can turn it over to Rob, and then we can all answer your questions towards the end.
Bo, I don't know if you introduced yourself at the beginning. If you did, I didn't hear it.
Sure. President Byman, Senate District 21.
Thank you. Rob, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thought I'd just kind of go through the text of the bill, if that's all right with
Yeah,
you.
that's great.
On page 2, this is really where the funding stream starts, as the good president mentioned. So when you look at the long-term fiscal profile for the state that LSO puts out, you go to the very bottom, even under the total, and it shows a 1% severance tax in what is anticipated for this coming biennium and the future biennium. That's roughly $211 million. As the president mentioned, this would take half of that. There was a Senate amendment that Senator Hicks brought to kind of front load it, which makes some sense to have the money in this account sooner than later to do these projects. And then the other half to go to the Common School Fund. I would point on page 3, that is where this, once this fund sunsets, as the president mentioned, it then divvies that severance tax back out to the PMTF and to the school fund as well. Section 2, which is pages 3 through 5, are really findings. You all know this in this committee, what the energy sector provides for the state when we talk jobs, when we talk revenues. So that's really all throughout that. Section 3, starting on page 5, is the creation of this. And I really would point to on page 6, line 9. That's really where the meat of where the legislature, you all can guide us where you would like us to put this money. And as the president mentioned, there's, enhanced oil recoveries called out, coal electricity, uranium conversion, fuel fabrication, rare earth processing, all those sort of things that we're working on here in the state. Section A, line 21 on page 6, requires a 1-to-1 match for the grant portion of this program. As you all know, we've done that in the past. I think this is, as an administrator of funds, I think is a good idea, has some skin in the game from industry, as well as it shows on page 7 that those funds must be secured before they would come to this program. And so for an example, in the past, we've had maybe projects that were maybe a little more speculative on, hey, you give us 4 million and then we'll go to the market and raise 4 million. This says, no, you can't do that, right? Day one, you have to have your money ready. We can help with the kicker that industry's paid for to get that project over the finish line and done in Wyoming. It also calls out, which I think is important, in-kind contributions cannot count towards that match. We've had that in the past as well, where someone values a microscope that they use at $100 million and say that's, we've met our match, and that's, not going to count. So then it goes into a loan program. Same areas to cover, same, coal, all those sort of things. And it goes through just how we're going to do these loans. We have the resources in-house. We have an investments director that can handle some of this. There's an origination fee that we can use to partner with banks if need to, from our local banks to help process some of this stuff. And then lastly, as the president mentioned, this will go away. There is a called out on page 10. I think important, there's a called out process that folks would have to go through. This is very similar to what our current Department of Energy does. So the applicants and industry, this should not catch them by surprise too much. You have a concept paper phase. If that meets the smell test, it goes to a full application phase. Then we have a public comment portion, so folks in the state can tell us what they think about the projects and those sort of things. Then finally, the Attorney General provides their legal review and the governor review as well. I would also note one last thing is this bill requires us as the Energy Authority to report to this committee, to the Appropriations Committee, and to the Management Council at least 30 days prior to any expenditure, what the project is, what the goals are, and where the money's going. So, Mr. Chairman, I think I covered the meat in the bill, but happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Representative Larson.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman and President Byman. This one probably will be for you. I'm looking at how we're planning on funding this for that first year on page 3. Was there any discussion or contemplation when you wrote the bill on maybe just doing a one-time transfer from LSRA rather than messing with the formula for a year?
Mr. Chairman, through you, no, not really, because I think the beauty of this is energy supports this. You'll hear from our friends in the Coal and the Mining Association and the Oil and Gas Association later. They fully support this idea because it's leveraging the tax dollars that they've spent. And what more perfect way to do that than with something like this. And I would also have mentioned something that Rob and I both forgot to mention, that we set up this fund so we can also accept federal grants. So if DOE, they're sitting on a lot of money and they have a lot of money they want to get deployed to the states like Wyoming for these types of projects. So we're not only leveraging our own money and the private sector, we're also leveraging federal funds. These are massive projects. These are projects that we need breaking ground now to get these things going and done. So to your question, no, I think LISRA is for the rainy day fund. This is minerals tax money that was paid for by the industry.
Thank you. Any further questions? No more questions? Well, gentlemen, President or Vice, would you like to say anything?
Mr. Chairman, Tim Salzer, Senate District 26, they stole it all. So
They took your thunder, huh? All right. Yeah, thank you. All right, anyone else? No one else, huh? Oh, here we go. Just this guy. Mr. Speaker, please introduce yourself.
Good morning, Chairman, and good morning, body. Chip Nyman, perhaps House District Number 1 representative. On and for the bill, I co-signed on to this bill because it's the right thing to do. You know, you may hear some pushback in the idea that maybe this is going to be something where we're just going to be throwing money around and potentially who knows who's going to get it, whatever. I don't believe. I believe that this is something that we have to, and I think the good senators and Mr. Krieger mentioned, we need to strike when the iron's hot. I think this is something that we have to do as a state to be able to forward development of our resources in a way that is thoughtful and in a way that is very proactive. And I think that this effort through 123 is just exactly that. We have an administration right now in place that is actively trying to develop our resources, recognizing the necessity of developing our resources. And Wyoming is that tip of that spear, as it was mentioned earlier. We have what they're looking for. And I think we would be negligent at best if we didn't capitalize on this opportunity with an administration right now that is embracing what we do as a state. I mean, if we just look at the opportunity to be able to put infrastructure into these existing oil fields, which is far less costly than new drilling, and so much of that material of that resource is still under the ground there. And our current technology and the way it's been accessed is limited on what it can continue to do. But I've heard as much as up to 80% of that oil is still under the ground there and can be brought out. Now is the time through permitting and through the support of the administration to be able to add these dollars to it. And I signed on to it for the very reason that was stated earlier by the other folks here. This is taking the industry's money that we would extract from the industries and allowing them to reinvest those dollars back into what is going to help to continue to promote our society here in Wyoming and our ability to be able to pay our bills. Nobody's going to argue here, I don't think, ladies and gentlemen, the fact that the legacy industries, coal, oil, natural gas, and others are the foundational, the foundational backbone of support and dollars for this state. I don't think anybody can really make a plausible argument that we shouldn't invest in this because everyone benefits from this. There's no one that is not touched financially of the blessing of the resources that we are very, very, very blessed with here in the state. So I think this is a tool, this is a vehicle, and as it was stated, this is a small effort. $105 million in the greater scheme of things is really not what we should be doing. But I think it's something we must do to start getting this headed in the right direction. And I think allowing these industries to be able to recapture some of their dollars and invest them into something that's going to continue to develop and promote the state of Wyoming and what we have. But the key thing, and I will go back to this, we need to do this now because I don't know, and as nobody here knows what the next administration is going to look like. And when we have a friend in the White House, we would be negligent if we didn't take advantage of that. So that's why I think this is a great opportunity for us. And I would encourage you all to support this legislation and allow it to move ahead with the intent and the full expectation that it's going to be a positive effect for the people of Wyoming.
So the iron's hot.
It's hot. It's right now. It's time to be
We
struck.
need to start branding.
If you got a horseshoe laying on an anvil, you better be hitting it right now. 'Cause if you're going to shape it, now's the time.
Yes, sir. Do we have any questions? Oh, Representative Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for being here. I think it's very important that we look at the one thing that you just capitalized on. Anytime that you're looking at an opportunity, you have to look at all the various aspects of it. And you hit on the aspect of timing. And I think that's very important because Wyoming has always been a national energy leader. But we're not getting ahead with things the way that we're doing. So continuing to do what we have done is going to get us the exact same results that we've gotten. I very much like this idea, and I agree along with we have the resources, so we have the location. But the next thing with opportunity is timing, and the time is now. I like this. I think this is a good bill. Thank you, sir.
I would have to agree, Mr. Chairman.
Excuse me?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Campbell, if I may.
Yes.
Agreed.
That's how you say the iron's hot in a longer form version.
You get there, it's just kind of Dallas via
Yeah,
Pittsburgh. Yeah,
just
okay.
gotta-
Yeah, no, he's right. In my opinion, he is absolutely right.
All right. Any further questions? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Who's up next? State agencies, anybody? We'll take them all.
Morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Mineral Committee. Jeff Doherty here on behalf of RER, Rare Element Resources. And I just want to echo the sentiments of the previous speakers, but I wondered if I might take a minute and go a little different direction from what you might see on a spreadsheet, which is often what I think the legislature looks at is, you know, dollar and cents returns. But I want to point out that we would be hopefully competing, our client would be competing for one of these grants as a part of this bill if it passes. And their project is up in Bear Lodge and also in the Upton area. So up in that area, for those of you who have been there, basically amber got poured over it in the 1950s, and it hasn't changed much since that time. And so one of the things that measures like this create within communities and within the state is a ripple effect. And what happens is presently Rare Element Resources has a demonstration plant that's going to come online in March. And just because of that, a new hotel has sprung up there, and that provides 20 to 40 jobs. In addition, just the demonstration plant provides 20 jobs at $60,000 to $90,000 each. Once, if we're successful and this project is able to convert, the goal of RER is to convert from a temporary demonstration plant that's testing a brand new extraction technology that's not been tried before. And the goal is to convert that to a permanent processing facility. Now, if that happens, we're going to have 120 of those permanent jobs at 60 to 90,000 each, plus, additional benefits, maybe new restaurants in the community. But mainly the thing I want to let you know is that is a beautiful, special place up there, but the kids who are growing up there really don't have a lot of opportunities going forward. And so this is a great chance to stop our kids from being our greatest exports. It really is. A few of those kiddos have families with ranches and family businesses that they'll be able to go to, but many don't. And so this is a fantastic way to keep families together and to benefit not just that community, not just that region, but our entire state. Mr. Chairman, previous speakers have touched on a lot of the other points. One thing I will just add a little color to in terms of the White House, it's my understanding that the White House had not had a history of weighing in on projects and bills and legislation like this. So we were the first. It's my understanding it's happened twice more. So it's a rare opportunity that we've got here. And I just want to tell you that this is also a national security issue. It is literally Upton versus China. And Mr. Chairman, I'd have you know that presently there are 3 places where rare earths can be processed and separated. 2 of them are foreign countries that begin with the letter C, China and California, and the other one is Texas. And so we have a couple of other rare earth mines in the state that it doesn't make economic sense to send your mineral, your separated or your processed material, but it does make sense to send it to Upton, Wyoming for processing. Mr. Chairman, I'm almost done. But I would respectfully request that the committee entertain a possible amendment to the bill, and I'll provide a justification in just a second. The amendment is to Section 3, Romanet I. And in there, the last sentence, it talks about rare earths. And what I would urge this body to consider is adding the word heavy before rare earths and to add the word extraction after processing. And the reason for that, you may have seen President Trump recently on Air Force One say, everybody has rare earths. What we lack is processing. But what he meant by that is we don't have places that do, other than the 3 that I just named for you, we don't have places that do extraction. Really quickly, the difference is processing is separating the mineral from the rock. Separation is where you separate the individual elements on the periodic table, and that's where the value comes in. That's the part that creates value, where Wyoming can really take a leadership role. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to end my comments there, and I'm happy to stand for questions.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions? Representative Lawley.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to get some clarity on the amendment you were suggesting. Do you have a page number? Section 3 begins on page 5, but
Hang on, just, Mr. Chairman,
Please.
Representative Lawley, give me 1 second. So the online version, fantastic, let's see, I think I'm on, the online version isn't giving me page number.
okay, maybe it's on page 6 then. I'll look here. Yes.
Section 3, Romanet I, looks like it's on page 6.
Okay.
And
Line 16.
Yes.
there we go. Thank you.
Correct.
Line 16, beginning end of line 15.
Mhm.
I would suggest that we insert the word heavy.
Yep.
And after the word processing, insert the word separation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Doctor, thank you for being here. There's going to be a finite amount of money here and a lot of interest in this. You look at that paragraph we were just working on, coal-fired electricity, natural gas, enhanced oil recovery, uranium, you mentioned rare earths. In your opinion, how do you maximize the benefit from a finite amount of money? So 100 million, 105 million, whatever that number is. How do you have the biggest impact in the state of Wyoming with that money?
Mr. Daughtry.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Heiner, that's a fantastic question. And I think the answer is that you have to, through that application process, separate the best and the brightest. You have to consider the very best proposals that come forward, and those are the ones that should be backed by the state of Wyoming. The others, through a process of competition, would, as a matter of course, be filtered out. Does that answer your question?
Follow up, Mr.
Follow up.
Chairman. So as you prioritize that list, do you give it all to the first one? And then you're
Mr.
done?
Daughtry.
Mr. Chair, Representative, or Chairman Heiner, two chairmen today, so I'm getting really confused up here. Mr. Chairman, that has to be a decision of the Wyoming Energy Authority. You know, I think that there will be more projects than funds available. And so I think that office will have to go through the difficult task of weighing a lot of good projects and only being able to select a few.
Mr. Chairman, one more follow-up.
Mr. Chairman, hold on one second. I'm going to throw him a lifeline here. So we heard testimony and you kind of missed it, but this, if you would please touch on the fact that this might enable us, we wouldn't have to give the money all to one person. We could give it to several, and there would be potentially grants if we showed initiative. Could you touch on that and maybe enlighten him a little bit on that?
Mr. Chairman, thank you for that. Yes, he's absolutely right. This bill contains provisions for grants and loans. It's always been my understanding that multiple organizations in those various sectors that you talked about are going to be making application. And I suspect more than just RER will be making application for the funds that would be applicable to rare earth. But this bill doesn't designate specific sections or specific amounts for any specific industry. So we will just have to bring the best possible application we can to try to compete for some portion of those funds. Does that answer your question, Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. My concern is with past the large energy program, it went to one industry and there was a lot of empty coffers out there that had good projects that were not able to be met because we gave it all to one industry. That's my concern with this. And if you have any ideas to make sure that this doesn't go to just one project, but we try to maximize our impact with this money, because in the large scope of things, it's not that much. Yeah, it's $100 million, but that doesn't go very far in these large projects. So how do we maximize that so we touch all of these opportunities or more than just one opportunity?
Mr. Daughtry.
Mr. Chairman, excuse me, I can't speak for the executive branch. I do know that the director who just spoke to you is a good man who does his dead level best to administer these programs. But I think, in my own opinion, I think we all as a state have learned from what happened in that instance. And I think we as a state should be more careful as we go forward and try our best to make sure that as many industries as possible can benefit from measures like this.
Thank you. Any further questions? Starter, you got off easy. Thank you. All right. Who's next? And here he comes. Pete, good morning. Travis, good morning. Whoever wants to go first, please introduce yourself and begin.
Mr. Chairman, good morning. Pete Obermueller, President of the Petroleum Association of Wyoming. Good to see all of you in the committee. You might be surprised to learn that we support the bill. I want to just a couple things. I think this committee has historically supported this concept that we use oil and gas and coal revenue, mineral revenue, to reinvest back into minerals for obvious reasons. I'll just say, since I'm on record here, the primary reason is because of Wyoming's tax code means that investments in this industry and extraction of minerals returns 2, 3, 5, 10-fold to the state than anything you could put into it. Mr. Chairman, back in the very first minerals interim committee, the good chairman asked me very politely to come to the second meeting with a big and bold idea. And that's what we did. We brought what Representative Tarver ended up offering with the 2% severance on EOR, and we came with an idea of a $250 million grant program. It's been whittled down to 105, and I agree with the chairman. That's probably not enough. I think just in oil and gas projects, we could do 105 million. Pretty confident of that. I'm sure Mr. Dita would say the same, and you heard earlier on rare earths, et cetera. That being said, you all have budgetary limitations, and I think it's fair to start with 105 million of industry paid taxes and allow the Energy Authority to do its level best to pick the best projects and move them forward and get the return we can. We can always come back and take a look at how it did and see if we want to do more. Mr. Chairman, I would just offer one last thought. In talking with some members, I think this committee and this body should take seriously the role that you have to structure the program so that the Energy Authority runs the program that that is acceptable to you and that you have in mind. There's lots of talk about previous projects that the Energy Authority made decisions on based on the law that was written by this body. So if there are things that you would like the Energy Authority to focus on, then have them focus on it. Rather than, I trust, as the previous speaker said, I trust that that Director Krieger and the Energy Authority will do their level best to do the best projects. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any questions? Representative Riggins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Obermiller. One of the things that was in this category was pipeline infrastructure, which that certainly covers about every corner of the state. So there's already been a significant amount of discussion about how effective EOR would be, and we've already done a lot of studies about what it might produce. And so you're going to be trying to balance that pipeline assistance, infrastructure assistance by perhaps over other ones. For example, and I think they probably have a little bit of distinct advantage right out of the gate because they've already been studying this so long. So your comments on how it relates to other pipeline stuff. Thank you, Mr.
Mr. O'Meara.
Mr. Chairman, yeah, thanks, Representative Riggins. I think you're right in the sense that there are, as it relates to enhanced oil recovery pipeline projects, there are projects that are further down the line than maybe some other projects. So they may be more ready once this is available for an application. I think you're right about that. It's just an accident of timing. But it gets to the point of if we can get something like this passed and it helps to drive this investment, not only investment of the taxes that industry has paid, but then of course, as Director Krieger mentioned, the money they have to invest in order to even access it. If that's successful, others will take note. There's no shortage of projects that we can do in Wyoming, and we can come back next year and talk about it. And they're very even the smaller EOR projects are large scale projects. So I'm very hesitant, Mr. Chairman, about efforts to try to chop up the money and only allow for a little bit at a time. That will limit the types of projects and the types of interest that will be offered. And so I'm reluctant to be prescriptive in terms of that part of it.
Perfect. Any other? Representative Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Oldwell, for being here. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm just trying to get my head around this. But one of the beauties of this thing is with this money, you would have quick reaction time to where we would be able to react to the market in a timely fashion. Let's say that some industry popped up and was only for such amount of time, we would be able to react, have that money to react in a timely fashion regardless of the industry, correct, sir?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Campbell, correct insofar as Wyoming is pretty nimble and the Energy Authority already has the expertise on how to operate a grant like this. Director Krieger laid out the process. That process will take some time, and particularly on large projects. You know this very well. I don't need to say this to you, but you know, especially on large pipeline projects, those are years in the making. Where you know, route, capital, et cetera, et cetera. So it's you are right in the sense that we're going to be able to nimbly be able to get the resources and move them quickly when a project is ready. But it's not going to be, you know, fly by night operations not going to come in and sneak under the radar in this process.
Rep. Knapp.
Mr. Chairman, could we have Director Krieger back up to help with this too? Because I think
Oh, I think you'd love to.
Mr. Obermueller hit something that's just spot on. You know, we talk about striking while the iron's hot. We've had resources that have gone to the WEA. And my concern is that it needs to be a larger view than this is perhaps. I think this is a good bill. I agree with it. But as Mr. Obermueller said, some of these are years in the making and are extraordinarily costly. But if we concentrate on projects that are the return on investment that we've talked about in the past, you know, with our savings, we have done private equity investments before, and those investments actually have been some of our top returning yields on our money. And so I'm wondering if we can't look at kind of an expansion thought process to this and concentrate on those return on investment projects, because I don't want to see a lot of carbon capture technology and that things that kind of throws money into a black hole. I'd like to see things that we can actually present to the treasurer and look at some of those private equity opportunities and really utilize this money for a return on investment. Do you have a comment?
Mr. Chairman, Chairman Knapp, yes, I agree with you. And we've talked about this in the past, the ROI and sort of how we look. I would point back to, and Mr. Obermueller mentioned it, what previous funds and laws have directed me and our organization to do. You look at the ROI on certain projects and yeah, maybe it's not, you know, severance tax from an oil production or those sort of things, but you look at future market potential and there is some, you know, all right, where do we see markets going? To the point, and I think it's, you know, a fair point on funds going to one company and one project. Again, I would point back to that large fund. You all as the legislature defined what large meant. And when you look at that definition, that means that pot of funding could only go to one or two projects. That's where I was, you know, told by you all to do. So I understand, and that's where I think this bill compared to prior funds gives us a lot more direction. It says where to invest. It says where not to invest. It has a loan component. Some projects will make more sense to do a loan as opposed to a grant, or maybe a mixture of the two. To the ROI, I'll just point to one EOR project we've done up in Gillette. We put forward just shy of $9 million for a pilot to make sure and see if their technology works. Just off the pilot production, Campbell County is getting $40 million. So, I mean, we've already got that. So we see these, you know, ROIs, but I understand the sentiment that this committee is saying. I appreciate this bill because it does give us a lot more direction than we've had in the past.
Follow up? Nope. Any further questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
Can I
please.
just,
Yes,
with
please.
your indulgence, can I just say one thing to Representative Knapp about that? as big a fan as in our investments in equities as anybody else. You're absolutely right. The return is great. The one thing that investment in equities does not do is provide the dynamism of the construction and the jobs in the communities. So we've talked a lot over many sessions about can we invest in ourselves in addition to the types of things that you're supporting and I'm supporting as well. That's what I think this does. We can do both. We can do both.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, do you have something?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Krieger, appreciate you being here, and I apologize that I missed your earlier testimony. As I read through this, it looks like the total control of where this goes, where this money is awarded, is in your office. You have to consult with the Attorney General to certify legality of the grant or loan, but your office solely and by itself gets to decide who is awarded this money. Is that correct?
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, I don't read it that way. I see it as this fund is housed in the auditor's office. They're used to holding funds, as you all are aware of, and that the process is where they come to us and we provide a recommendation to the governor for their decision on the grant or loan, that we do not make that full decision.
Follow
up.
So the governor will ultimately make the decision where that money is awarded then. Is that what you're saying?
Mr. Chairman, as I read this, yes.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Gentlemen, Mr. Detail, would you like to?
My turn, Mr. Chairman.
It is. Let's go.
Mr. Chairman, I pretty much echo what has been said here today. I do want to hit on a couple of points. First of all, the mining industry fully supports the bill. And we've talked a little bit about urgency. I was doing a little homework this morning. You know, we're one of the we're going to regain our status as the nation's top uranium producer soon. The United States has the largest nuclear fleet in the world. And, you know, about, I think 54 nuclear generating facilities in 28 states, 94 reactors online. 1% is powered by domestic uranium. All the rest is foreign. And we've been that way for a long time. Took a war for us to say, boy, we really can't rely on these foreign actors anymore. But to rebuild and to get ourselves back on the playing field, we heard a little bit about supply chain. We don't have the capability to produce nuclear fuel in this country. I think what this bill, just one of the things that this bill touched on was, you know, rebuilding that supply chain and the opportunity for a conversion facility so that we can start making domestic fuel from domestic uranium, from Wyoming uranium. The opportunity to do that, to leverage this fund, to get a project in with, in conjunction with private investment, some federal funding. The iron is hot. It's time to strike on a project like that. I've had several meetings within the last couple months out in Washington, D.C. and other places with members of the administration from the Department of Energy, Department of Commerce, Department of Interior. This administration is very serious on getting Wyoming coal out of the country to service our allies in the Pacific so that they don't have to rely on Chinese coal. We have an opportunity here. These grants, these funds can be leveraged for port projects. And we're taking a very serious look. If you would have told me we're going to be exporting 18 months ago, I would have said, well, the window is very slow. The window is opening up to get our coal offshore, and we have some opportunities. The Energy Authority came out with their deep dive coal study just recently, identifying some of the best opportunities for that. You know, we have an opportunity out of Oakland to get some coal, possibly out of Kemmerer, and keep that mine operating, keeping those jobs going. It's going to take a little investment. State of Utah has set aside $50 million, a little bit north of $50 million, to invest in port projects. We've had conversations with the state of Utah to kind of partner on some of this stuff so that we can move American coal and export. And again, Wyoming coal preferably. But you know, and you've heard me say this over and over again, Wyoming runs on extraction. It pays the bills. It's jobs for families. You know, we've heard a lot of talk over, we're in the red in the future, in the red in the future. Well, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I've got the solution for you. Produce more minerals, rare earths, coal, oil and gas, trona, bentonite, produce more minerals. And this piece of legislation is going to give us some leverage to do that. So fully in support of the bill, and I'd stand for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Detail. Do we have any questions? That was so well done. You get.
I get off easy.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Pass this bill.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. McKay, please bring it.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Rennie McKay, President of the Wyoming Business Alliance, and honored to be with you to talk about this bill. We're very much in favor. One of our priorities, we have 4 priorities, and one of them is energy leadership. And so all of the businesses come together, and I think we heard some great testimony from the President and Speaker about that, the value that energy has across our entire economy. And so that leadership is something that I think Wyoming has done for the whole nation. You know, and all the hats I've worn in my career, you can just look at it and understand how you look at this region and the nation and how much Wyoming's energy has driven our economy and the low cost energy that we've provided. We're the largest and have been the largest exporter of energy. Texas has produced more, New Mexico produces more, but they export or they use a little bit more internally. And so that leadership opportunity still exists. And then, so coming in this morning, I was thinking about the how. How do you maintain that leadership? And we are in a challenging moment as well as a moment when I think the forge is hot. But right now, there are a lot of other states competing with us for opportunities to grow their energy sector or to use our energy and grow other sectors. So just heard about Utah. I think Representative Campbell's talked to this committee about what's going on in Texas around the Gulf on some big projects with big incentives from those states, Louisiana and Texas, putting, I believe, dozens of millions of dollars, if not hundreds of millions of dollars into energy products and projects. So the need to maintain and our ability to maintain that leadership position, I think is not something that's just going to happen. It's never happened here just by accident. So really appreciate you looking at something that can help us maintain that role as we go forward. And I think that, there's just some challenges for us as well. As you are trying to figure out exactly how to do this. I did wear the hat of being around to when you all passed the last 2 funds. So there has heard that, there was one project out of the large energy project. There was another energy project fund as well. And that got to over 25 projects got funded. So you do have a choice. Do you want to put more eggs in one basket, or do you want to disperse them? Those are challenging conversations for you all to have, I think, here as you look at this. How do you prioritize which project should get it? Because you could talk about matching dollars, but you could also talk about jobs. You could also talk about future tax revenues that a project should return to the state. Those are all things you can consider, but to be nimble and to be in this moment, I think, you do give the Energy Authority a little bit more space to make decisions and analyze what comes in as well is really important. The President Beitman and Speaker Nyman and I were at an event just 2 months ago with JP Morgan. And they had announced in October that they're investing $1.5 trillion into the U.S. for security and resilience is the name of the initiative. So they want to do that. So they came here, met with those leaders and the business community to talk about what's possible here. And the excitement when they left Wyoming, and when they've got a checkbook of 1.5 trillion was really palpable. There's some great projects that are on the horizon for Wyoming and are in really close to being in development that the private sector is going to invest in. And so this money, I think, can get leveraged. And I do think investments like JP Morgan's, things we're hearing from overseas, the forge is really hot right now. So this is a moment to not take our foot off the gas.
Thank you, Mr. McKay. Do we have any questions? We are sitting on a gold mine, aren't we? This state is thank you.
It's incredible. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak on this bill? All right, I will close public testimony. Committee, moved by Representative Lawley. Second by Representative Campbell. Any discussion? Representative Lawley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This might be my favorite day in minerals for this session. These first two bills have been extremely important and address concerns I've had about leadership, strategic focus. We need power, and Wyoming has never had a situation like this where there are so many different resources in the state that are needed to meet the growing power demands of our country. We have never had a president who recognizes that energy is not only a need for our country, but that energy has become a national security issue. That is an extremely important reality. And it is the right time for the Wyoming Legislature and our executive branch to move forward and lead with strategic focus. And this bill begins to do that. The last bill as well sets us on a path that is important if we want to monopolize on and take advantage of the resources we have and use them effectively to meet the needs of our country, but most importantly, for the people of Wyoming. And so I appreciate this bill. I strongly support it. And President Beitman, Senate President Beitman, I thank you for the work you put in working with the executive branch. I have no doubt that there is going to be a lot of good things coming from the executive branch of our president, and that is going to be centered around what we're leveraging here. So I thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I propose an amendment on page 6. On line 12, to strike but not limited to. And also on line 15 to add heavy in front of rare. Line 16, after processing, put a comma and separation. And if I get a second, I'll explain my amendment.
Second.
Campbell, seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. But when we define what this money can be used for, but put that clause in, but not limited to, it opens it up. It does us no good at that point because it can be used for anything. And we've seen that in the past. So by striking that, it focuses our efforts on those items that have been then identified here. And I am hugely in support of this bill, but I don't want it to be going somewhere that we don't intend as a legislature. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Lawley.
I'm not going to try to divide the amendment, but I will tell you, I don't really support what the good chairman just said concerning page 6, line 12. Part of the situation we're in is very fast moving, and we need the ability through this process to be nimble and to adjust. And that's why that provision is there, but not limited to. So we are stating our priorities, but we're recognizing the possibility that we may have missed something on the list, but that will come into strategic focus. So again, I'm on and against that part of the amendment.
Representative Larson.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. I echo the same concerns with this amendment. I don't want to tie our hands. I support the intent of the bill. I support the industries that are listed, but I also want to make sure we can support other industries that are favorable to Wyoming if they arise. So I'll be on and against the amendment.
Any further discussion?
Questions?
Seeing no question being called, all those in support of the amendment, say aye.
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 All those against?
No.
All right, we're gonna have to raise a hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. Riggins, are you? You're a no? Okay, so we've got 4 no's. Okay, that motion pass. Amendment passes. All right, any more discussion on the bill? All right, all roll, please.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. I think we had 2 other amendments.
No.
No?
Those are.
No, those are.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any further discussion? Seeing no discussion, Mark, please call roll.
Representative Campbell,
Aye.
Representative Knapp,
Aye.
Representative Larson,
Aye.
Representative Lawley,
Aye.
Representative Riggins,
Aye.
Representative Schmidt,
Aye.
Representative Tarver,
Aye.
Representative Weber,
Aye.
Chairman Heiner.
Aye.
Vote is 9-0. Do pass with amendments.
All right. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate that. Appreciate all the testimony on that, President. You're welcome to come into our chamber and present if you would like, Mr. President. All right. All right. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Our next bill up is Senate File 21, Wyoming Stable Token Amendments. We have the majority floor leader from the Senate here to impart his wisdom upon us. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, Senate File 21, Wyoming Stable Token Amendments was the work of the Select Committee on Blockchain during the interim. This bill amends our Wyoming Stable Token Act. We passed that a couple of years ago, and we had a successful launch of the first state issued / sovereign issued stable token in the world. We're very happy with that. And that was on January 7th, I believe, was our launch date. So if you want some Wyoming stable tokens, Frontier is what we call them, you are welcome to get those at any time. This bill does 5 things, 5 cleanups that were requested by the Wyoming Stable Token Commission to help them facilitate the work that they do. None of them are major policy changes, but again, just consistent with them getting their work done. Some asks along the way. So this is one of those bug fix bills. I'll walk through the bill that you have before you, the engrossed version on page 2. The first thing this does is allow the Stable Token Commission to enter into agreements with other states and geographic areas after consulting with the commission. There's a lot of interest in other states partnering with Wyoming on the Frontier Stable Token, and that would be of great benefit to the state if we formed those partnerships. On page 3, the second thing the bill does is add just a little bit of language on what the reserve trust account can be invested in to allow for compliance with 17 CFR Part 272A7. A 2A7 account is a specific type of money market account that very closely resembles what we have above on the page, but has some minor nuances in ratios. So that's what our largest financial institutions tend to utilize as their treasury type investments. So for simplification purposes, we added that so that they didn't have to create an entirely new type of treasury-based investment for us. So minor language change, but makes life a little easier. Bottom of page 3, the third change relates to the creation of what we call a liquidity account. In the end, it doesn't change our original intent where we have a 102% reserve of the dollars that are issued as stable tokens, but we're creating a little more clarity in having a trust account as the 100% and a liquidity account as the 2% instead of it being one account. And that's much better for the bookkeeping as well as just making sure that funds are flowing in an appropriate way without affecting the original trust. So we'll see another provision related to that. On to page 4 begins the fourth change. This is the cascade, as we call it, which is when revenue comes into the Stable Token Commission as earnings off of the investments in the trust. So those are coming through Treasury investments, how does the money flow? And we're providing clarity here that the first place it flows to is support for the operational costs of the act. And that's an important part of this. They're self-reliant moving forward is the intent. Once we have revenue, that's going to pay for the administration of the Stable Token Commission. So that's the first tier of the cascade. The second is going into the liquidity account up to the 2% of notional value. The third is that it would go into possible temporary savings of the Stable Token Commission if that's necessary. And then the fourth, as previous, the real revenue and earnings, once we have those flowing, go on a quarterly basis to the Public School Foundation program. Bottom of page 5 relates back to the third point I mentioned, which is the creation of the liquidity account and how that operates. On page 6, the final fifth point is the allowance for the commission to accept federal grants, gifts, and other contributions into any of the accounts. There are federal programs that are coming forward. We're the first state in the country that has a stable coin or stable token, and we believe there would be interest in having support for that. So we need to be able to accept federal grants. And there are also organizations out there that are working in the digital asset space that would love to be able to provide support for what we do because they're very interested in seeing it grow and partnering with it. So this allows for that partnership and allows explicit permission for that collaboration. And then the act becomes effective immediately. This is Director Anthony Apollo for the Wyoming Stable Token Commission. I probably didn't miss anything, but in case I did, please note that.
Mr. Apollo?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Anthony Apollo, Executive Director of the Wyoming Stable Token Commission. Senator Roth has provided a great overview of the bill. I don't have much to add other than just the context that what you are seeing here is informed by the development and deployment of the Wyoming Stable Token. So along the way, for example, when we built out the reserve structure for the Stable Token, the differentiation between the trust account, where we're maintaining the one-to-one backing of the stable tokens, it's quite important that we distinguish that and segregate that from the over collateralization that we're now putting in what we're calling the liquidity account, because that's going to have, those two buckets are going to have different rights. That trust account is not Wyoming State's money. It's that of the token holder. It's a special obligation of the state, but we're holding it on their behalf. Once the interest income comes back to the state and we put it in that liquidity account for the over collateralization of the token, that is our commission's funds. Now, we want to be able to use that funding to reconstitute the one-to-one backing if there's any kind of depegging event where the stable token drops below the value of $1. We have a lot of protections in place to make sure that doesn't happen, but that is the ultimate kind of fallback. And again, both of those accounts would be differentiated from the administration account, which is our commission funding, where we can actually operate the agency through those monies, right? The goal here with these amendments, with the federal grants and donations, is to make sure that on a much more expedient timeline, this commission can become self-sufficient and no longer draw on general funds, but be self-sufficient going forward and just operate off of the interest income we're generating before, again, ultimately returning dollars to the school foundation program. And I'm happy to stand for any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Apollo. Any questions for, okay, start on that end. Representative Knapp.
So just out of curiosity, do we have numbers on what is our operating costs currently?
Mr. Apollo?
The chair, Representative Knapp, that those operating costs were put forth in our 2020 biennial 2027 budget request. It's about $4 million a year. That pays for the team, that pays for 9 different vendors that we have engaged to build out and support the token. It is likely over time we'll bring more of those vendor services in-house. However, that might require us to have more headcount. So that is a reflection of the vendor relationships we've had to date, the team that we brought on, and our ask of one additional resource to help with business development to accommodate all the inbound we are receiving like that from other states and territories interested in leveraging the Wyoming Stable Token Foundation and framework.
Follow up? Mr. Apollo, is that an ongoing appropriation that we see for the foreseeable future?
Mr. Chairman, the goal is to have this self-funded within 12 to 18 months. Again, that will differ depending on how this act is structured. Again, if the amendments go through
as proposed. The expectation is when we'll be able to have dollars come back to the state sooner, and then we'll do the over collateralization afterwards. That's the cascade that Senator Rothfuss spoke of that will expedite that timeline.
Thank you. All right. Vice Chair.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Gentlemen, I'll be honest with you, my constituents have no clue what stable tokens are. So is there somewhere they can go to learn what this is, how they can use it, and how it can benefit them? Because I think that would do the most good for my constituents.
Through the chair, Mr. Co-Chair, yes, we've put together a fairly robust, we call a fact book, which is listed on our website. It's about 55 pages. It's not only about the commission, how we've got to where we are today, the launch, where you can buy the token, but there's also some pretty robust detail there about what stable coins are, what they do, how they help the state of Wyoming, how they help the US dollar and the nation. And beyond that, the goal for us is to use some of the marketing dollars that we have in this current biennium and then in the subsequent bienniums to put together several educational modules. We've been kind of stress testing those internally through interagency education. But the goal is to roll those out publicly, possibly as early as Frontier Days.
Mr. Apollo, do you have a coin you can let him take home and show her?
Mr. Chairman, I cannot, but as a appointed director, but
I probably can do that for you, yeah, if you'd like some. And Mr. Chairman, this is already viable. You can buy coffee with a Wyoming stable token at this point in time. You'd use a credit card. Well, it looks like a credit card, but it's transacting in Wyoming stable token. And then we have payment rails that would allow that to transfer. The cost of that transaction is 0.1%. I believe that's accurate, as opposed to say the 3% plus that is on a standard credit card transaction. And that 0.1% is high. That's a company making plenty of money off of the back end because this is so much more efficient. So one of the things that we're trying to do during this interim, right? We just launched. Now we need to make it useful for everybody. And so that's a big part of our interim is, all right, now let's tie in, let's get the state of Wyoming to benefit from it. Let's try and allow people to pay taxes with it. Let's try and provide opportunities to transact, maybe tie in with the university, tie in with the colleges, wherever we can, because these transaction fees are so much lower, they're easier. And everyone here has probably experienced, right? You want to pay your property tax or something. You want to do it with a credit card, but you don't because there's a 3% fee associated with it. So you get out the checkbook. First step, figure out where is my checkbook. And second step, then pay with check. Wouldn't it be nice if we could just transact seamlessly using an electronic transfer that was secure? So we have those types of aspirations ahead. That will increase the use. Once we increase the use and the liquidity of it, that increases the revenue. And I'll remind the committee, we also intend to pay back all of the prior general fund obligations that have ever been issued. So not only will we be moving forward with a zero budget, we will backfill all previous budgets.
Follow up.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Vice Chair.
would it be appropriate? I didn't hear the website.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Co-Chair, I apologize. It's stabletoken.wyo.gov.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Representative Lawley, you had a question?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You guys did a switch on me here.
We're fast. We're
You
moving right
guys
along.
are. Thank you. Could you also just address briefly how a stable token would be valuable in a larger commercial transaction? Why that might be something that would be valuable in that realm?
Go ahead.
Mr. Apollo?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Representative Lawley. We've built the Wyoming stable token framework to accommodate both small scale and large scale transactions. Senator Rothfuss has already covered the ability to do smaller retail transactions, getting that cup of coffee instead of paying, whether it's you or the retailer, paying 3.5% to 5%. We've got that down to fractions of a penny. When it comes to those big institutional deals, the same fee structure applies on a blockchain, no matter what the size of the transaction is. So if you wanted to move several hundred millions of dollars of value using the stable token, there is no incremental nor increased cost for that. It will still cost you several hundred thousands of a penny on some of the high volume chains that we're using. And just to give you a very concrete example, one of our partners is called Layer Zero. Hand waving a bit here, but what they allow you to do is move your tokens across different blockchains.
because when we spoke with the select committee as early as 2023, the encouragement was to not necessarily pick winners from a technology perspective, but to be multi-chain and technology agnostic. So through Layer Zero, we're able to move across these chains. They've moved several hundred millions of dollars in singular transactions. I believe $640 million was the largest transaction they did. I believe it cost $1.50.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Apollo, what is the timeline for county treasurers to accept stable tokens so I can pay my property taxes or my parking tickets?
Mr. Chairman, I'm actually quite enthusiastic and excited you asked that question, because we actually had the Converse County Treasurer, Joel Schell, appear to testify in front of the Stable Token Commission in November. The point he made was he collected $3.4 million of taxes, and it cost his constituents $70,000 in credit card fees. And we have that data point in our fact book. He wants to use the stable token to put real money back in the pockets of his constituents. The question of how we do that is twofold. One is technical, one might be statutorily based. We need to make sure that these different agencies and instrumentalities rather in the state have the ability to accept the stable token. One of the things we flagged, for example, is the unclaimed property division of the Treasurer's Office can take in intangibles, which includes monies, not digital assets, and we're not monies. Same holds for the county treasurer. So that's something that we are looking at. Whether that's a floor amendment, I will leave that to you. But if that's an interim topic, we are happy to handle that as well. We certainly have the context. And then we are also building a piece of technology within the agency that would allow any one of Wyoming state agencies to essentially put a module on their website to accept stable tokens. So it would not need to go through or be integrated into 24 different payment platforms used on a county by county basis. We could just keep everything in the state and keep these transactions cheap for Wyoming's constituents and citizens.
So, Mr. Apollo, would it be safe to say we're a few years out before we can actually do commerce within our state?
Mr. Chairman, I would hope that we're a few months out.
Excellent. Good answer.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator.
Yeah, we want to be doing more within just a few months, but we are finding some interesting statutory challenges. And Director Apollo just mentioned one that we didn't know existed. There's very specific language for our county treasurers in what they can accept. And it's called out in an explicit way that causes us some difficulty. We were actually looking at amending this bill to provide clarification there, but it's a bit outside of where in statute we need to be hanging out based on the title of this bill, unfortunately. So we're still trying to figure out a way to be clever, and maybe we will on that point, but that's one that will slow us down a little bit. And then working also with the state treasurer, who's very interested in working with the commission to facilitate agency engagement, and they have a lot more flexibility. So we think we have a path to do that without statutory revisions. We're doing as much as we can, and we'll make the changes 1 year from now that are necessary to ensure that our counties can accept, and then hopefully immediately thereafter. We know that Mr. Schell from Converse would like to flip the switch tomorrow.
Good, good. Senator, a large portion of these amendments that in this bill center around the liquidity account that was created through an amendment in the Senate. So can you just give us a little bit of color why this transpired in the Senate as an amendment in the Senate Minerals Committee rather than from your blockchain and the original bill?
Absolutely. So the way the original bill was written, it did the same thing. It separated it out and called it a liquidity account, but it was written in a way that we found confusing. And so it did what it needed to do, but as we reflected on it, as the commission studied it after the meeting when we passed it, we thought this is still not as clear as it could be if we just split them out into 4 nice bullet points and then created a new paragraph referring to the liquidity account and describing it, which is typically what we do in statute. So we didn't actually change anything in terms of what it did on that rather substantive amendment over in the Senate. We just made it a lot clearer and spent a little time working on the clarity side of it.
That's the beauty of working a bill through the chambers.
Absolutely.
Making it better. And I appreciate that very much that, you know, we come here together and 93 people work on it rather than just a few during the committee. Any other questions? Any other questions? Thank you for being here. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
We'll open it up for other public testimony. Anyone else would like to come and testify about Senate File 21? Do we have anyone online, Libby? Going once, going twice? Okay, we'll close public testimony. Move the bill by Vice Chair Tarver, seconded by Representative Lawley. Any discussion, committee? Representative Larson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just from the discussion regarding the unclaimed property side of things, there'll be an interim topic submitted to us by the unclaimed property division to update their statutes for digital assets and those things. So just wanted the committee to be aware of that.
Sounds like an interesting topic. I'm sure we'll put it on our calendar so we can be there.
I can agree with that.
Any other conversations?
Question.
Hearing the question being called. Thank you very much. We're voting members on Senate File 21 engrossed. Mr. Mark Knotts, would you call the roll, please?
Representative Campbell.
Aye.
Representative Knapp.
Aye.
Representative Larson.
Aye.
Representative Lawley.
Aye.
Representative Riggins.
Aye.
Representative Schmid.
Aye.
Representative Tarver.
Aye.
Representative Weber.
Aye.
Chairman Heiner.
Aye.
Chairman, the vote was 9-0 This is a do pass.
All right. Thank you very much for your attendance. Now, I assume the rest of you are here for the last bill because you didn't provide public testimony on this past one. So Senate File 99, do we have one of the sponsors present the bill? We need a sponsor.
Gotta have a sponsor.
We need a sponsor. So we have Cooper, Barlow, Dockstetter, Driscoll, Hicks, or Landon, all senators. There's no House representatives on this. No House sponsors. Little unusual.
Not so much so on a budget session, but yeah.
Mr. Meyer, do you want to maybe sing a song for us?
No.
He has a great baritone or tenor voice. You found a friend. Good. Thank you. Welcome, Senator. I'm sure you've been waiting patiently outside for this opportunity. Introduce yourself and please proceed.
Ed Cooper, Senate District 20. We're going to talk about the electrical prescription bill. Prescription.
Senator, do you need a copy?
Let me borrow your bill there. Prescriptive easements. Now, this is a bill that was brought to us last year by the REA, the WREA and their members. And we sat down across the hall and started to present it and ran into some pretty big holes in it. It had some issues. So we tabled the bill and we asked everybody to get together, the REAs, the landowners, Stockholders Association, Farm Bureau. They all sat down as a group through the summer and worked through their issues. And they all came back with a pretty darn good bill. It met everybody's needs. It was agreed to across the board, and it's pretty straight up. So I'm going to let the young lady next to me here go ahead and walk you through the bill.
I'll start first if I can, Mr. Chairman.
John, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I'd echo what Senator Cooper said.
Mr. Taylor, would you introduce yourself?
Oh, yes, sorry.
For the record?
My name's Sean Taylor. I'm the Executive Director of the Wyoming Rural Electric Association, speaking in generally on behalf of the original legacy industry, electricity, and specifically the rural electric co-ops. As Mr. Cooper or Senator Cooper said, I appreciate him bringing this bill back, but I think we're onto a good process here, kind of like what we did with wildfire last year, is we got all the stakeholders together, worked through after the Senate committee last year, realized that there were some holes that we needed to address, some things we needed to address. So we brought everybody together over the summer, came up with this bill. And our interest in it, and I won't speak for the other stakeholders if they're here in the room, but as you all can imagine, the rural electric co-ops, and we were electrifying rural Wyoming. This was a matter of neighbors helping neighbors and agreeing to let the co-op cross their land to get them power and get their neighbors power and their neighbors power. And a lot of these deals were done on handshake agreements, which I appreciate. But over the years, with changes in ownership, land ownership, and subdividing sections, it's become tougher for us to get onto these easements that were a handshake agreement and do proper maintenance, do proper vegetation management, upgrade in some cases. And so we've talked about this for a long time, unrecorded easements, and we decided it was finally time that we did something about it. And I'll have Miss Good, Mandy Good, as counsel for WREA, walk through the bill. And there was an amendment in the Senate that, in hindsight's 2020, we probably should have fought harder against it, but we agreed to let it go so we could move the bill along. There is an amendment that we proposed that I think was just passed out to you all that would strike the amendment that was adopted in the House, and Ms. Good will explain that as well. So a lot of good effort by all sides have gone into this bill. I think we're at a point where we can agree that this is needed, and it will help everybody in terms of being able to, again, access where lines are already in place. It's not we're not addressing new easements. This is we start from 2020 or 2006 moving back. So anything from 2006 up until now there should be proper paperwork or recorded easement on those things. It's the ones that started, 80, 90, 100 years ago up until 2006. And Ms. Good will cover that in the bill as well.
As an example for what Sean said, in my district up the creek, we just had to do an upgrade to get some three-phase power to some irrigators up a ways. And the REA actually had to reroute their line because they had an old easement out across a gentleman who had moved into the area more recently. And he said, you don't have an easement, you can't go through there. So they, in order to upgrade their line even, they had to completely reroute it at a considerable expense to their taxpayer or to their ratepayers. And it really kind of goes across the state. These kind of issues are out there all over the place as these old handshake agreements are really no longer valid. We just have to have a better way to access these lines.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mandy Good with WREA. I'll walk through the bill at a pretty high level. If anybody has questions, I'm happy to go deeper into it, but I don't want to slow you down if you're grasping it all and don't want me to go there. So I'll start with Section 2. Section 1 just talks about the reasons for the bill. So those are the things that Sean Taylor just walked you through, how we got to where we are, why we had such a big group of stakeholders involved, and why the REAs and the landowners were all together in coming up with this bill and the language that we're bringing forward on it. So I'll jump into Section 2. That's where we create 34.1.159. The first part of that's just the definitions. You'll notice that we did everything we could to use current definitions in statute. So you'll see references to electric utility referring to another statute. Public utility refers to another statute. So we're not creating anything new with those. Subsection B says these easements are non-exclusive. The reason that's important is the landowners needed that. The landowners need to be able to use their land however they want to. So we want them to continue to be able to graze, continue to be able to do what they need to do. Exclusive would mean that only the utilities could utilize that easement. So non-exclusive was important for our landowners who were involved in the stakeholder group. And I don't think anybody was after an exclusive right to use the land. Subsection B also requires several factors that have to be in place before this statute even applies. So first of all, there has to be a delivery system that's visible. It has to be continuously in use. So there's no, we had a question early on about whether there was some taking involved with this. There's not, because there's nothing new being created. The lines are already there. We just want to keep them safe and maintained so that they can be reliable, not create fires, not create other issues. So nothing new there. It has to be visible so people are aware of it from the get-go if they buy the land. It has to be in place on or before January 1 of 2006. Originally, we had 20 years in there, so it would have been a rolling date. We stopped and moved that to 2006 because everybody agrees going forward, these should be done right. They should be recorded. We're not trying to come up with an out for that moving forward. It's just cleaning up these old easements that were handshake deals. It also says that it cannot go into place if there is a valid written agreement. So the purpose there, so this is subsection B5. You'll find it on the top of page 5. The purpose of that was we don't want to impact anything that's been done by agreement. So if the landowners and the utility have a written agreement, that controls. The statute doesn't even go into effect. Subsection C says what the easement grants. It grants things like restructuring, rephrasing, maintaining to keep it safe. The rephasing is important, and Senator Cooper stole my thunder on this. I was going to use the irrigation example. The rephasing is important because we want landowners to continue to be able to use their land for whatever they want. They may need us to upgrade that from the rural electric cooperative standpoint to upgrade that so that they could switch from grazing land to irrigation. That requires more power. So we've got to have the rephasing in there for the landowners to be able to do whatever they might want to do when they change use of their land. Subsection C2 allows access. It's limited to reasonable access. There is an exception in there for a safety issue. So we've got to stay on the easement unless there's a safety issue. And then of course, you wouldn't want people staying where it's unsafe. So there are the reasonableness exceptions in that. Subsection D says that the easement is 30 feet in each direction. We had quite a bit of discussion on what was reasonable there, what we'd need to get the right equipment in to maintain and fix those lines. We figured 60 feet's enough, 30 feet in any direction gets us there. Subsection E, so I'll flip to subsection E here. It says the utilities do not have an easement if they abandon it. That's 3 consecutive years without any agreement with the landowner to do otherwise. We built that last piece in so that if there's an agreement with the landowner, again, it trumps. We want there to be that interaction between the utilities and the landowner. Subsection F says what the act does not do. Doesn't interfere with existing easements. It does not expand beyond historic uses or normal development. This was one that took a significant amount of our time and our discussion within the stakeholder group. What we wanted to do is ensure that these easements, where we're cleaning up old ones, don't allow some huge development to come in. That's not the point. The point is cleanup. But we also don't want to limit your landowners from being able to do what they want to do. So if you have somebody who wants to feed out their cattle and they've got a small setup where they need power, we want to be able to give that to them. So it was one where we had a lot of back and forth to come to language that we thought was a balance for the utilities and the landowners, gave the landowners room to do what they wanted, but it did not give big corporations the ability to come in on these easements. The very last section, G, is just the effective date. So I'm happy to answer any questions on that. And I'd also like to make a couple of comments, if I may, Mr. Chairman, on,
good.
thank you, on the amendment that was added in, I believe it's page 6, starts at line 7, if I remember that right. So this amendment, make sure I'm taking you to the right place. Yes, subsection C3, page 6, line 7 is where it starts. It says the electricity user shall not be liable for any damage caused to the system or other property of the electric utility located on the easement unless the damage is caused by the electricity user's gross negligence or willful misconduct. The concern we have about that is under current law, generally you're not liable unless you do something wrong. you've got to be negligent to have some sort of liability. Well, this particular provision says that one bad actor can be negligent. He can damage those lines and he's not at fault for it. Legally, he's not responsible for it. What happens in the co-op situation is we have to fix those lines, but we're nonprofits. So now the co-ops have to put that in the rates for all the other landowners who are their ratepayers to cover. So it gives one bad actor an out. And we don't see how that makes any sense. The co-op members are landowners. They're not in favor of having to pay for each other's negligence. So that's not what we want to see happen with this bill. And that's why I believe Mr. Taylor gave everyone an amendment that would strike lines 7 through 11 on page 6.
All right, thank you, Ms. Good. Questions? Representative Knapp, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So with some of these landowners that didn't have written agreements, is there any sort of compensation that's involved in this kind of renegotiation or allowed access?
Ms. Good.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Representative Knapp, in this particular situation, there is not some additional compensation because at some point back whenever this was established decades ago, there was an agreement. So it was already agreed to, the lines are already there. We can't look and find out whether the landowner at that point in time was paid or not. May have been he just wanted electricity, may have been he got paid. We don't know at this point. I mean, we're decades out from that. So at this point in time, there is not a monetary payment, but what the landowner's getting is safe and reliable power lines and power to their property.
Any other questions? Representative Riggins?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What you're just speaking of about the, was it section 3 or paragraph 3, Roman numeral 3? So is that if someone decided they want to go off grid and help everybody else go off grid as well, is that be a condition to be talking about, something like that? And then they damage it in that particular fashion.
Ms. Good.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Representative Riggins, if someone goes off grid, I'm trying to think of a scenario where this would apply. And I'm not sure how it would. What I picture is, so let's say someone goes joyriding in their tractor and runs through the lines with the bucket up. That's probably gross negligence. But let's say somebody is moving their irrigation pipe and they stick one up into the lines and it takes out everything. That could very well be negligence. Maybe they accidentally stuck the line up there. What we're looking at is in this particular provision, that person gets a pass. They're not liable for their actions in any way. They're not liable for taking out people's power. They're not liable for any of the cost of fixing that. And the problem in our situation is all of our other landowners and ratepayers suddenly are, because we're not for profit. We don't have the funds to just go fix that. So all of a sudden you're moving one bad actor's negligence or actions to everyone else to be responsible for. And I'm happy to go into more if I missed what you needed there, Representative Riggins.
Follow up, Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just thinking, they went off grid by cutting the power pole down and that's how they got off grid. Thereby helping everybody else.
All right. Representative Lawley, and then we'll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To follow up on that, I see a relationship with the fact this is a non-exclusive easement with the idea about damages, because the easement's set up in such a way that the property owner can use this space any way they want that serves their purposes, which I think is a good thing. But talk about how that relates to this issue of potential damages and limiting negligence becomes more important.
Ms. Good.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Lawley, you're absolutely right. So we could have all kinds of things happening on these easements. We could have people digging on them. We could have ditches going across them. We could have cattle grazing. We could have events taking place. I mean, anything the landowner wants to do that doesn't create issues with the power lines or the structures that are carrying them could still be taking place. So our goal would be that the law stays the same on that. There's no need to change it. If you take negligent action, you're liable for your own negligence. What this does is gives that one bad actor a pass if they're negligent. And we don't see any reason that anyone would want to do that when it's going to come back on all the other landowners and electricity users to have to pay for it.
Any follow-up? Representative Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, guys. I am a little bit concerned here because I don't know, I'm dealing with an easement. I'm just dealing with sheep. That was a handshake deal in the 1970s. And it has created a lot of hate and discontent amongst the neighbors. So my concern is following up with Representative Knapp and Representative Lawley. If these people purchase this land, not knowing that there was a handshake deal, I mean, they entered in good faith, and this is their land, and there is not an actual easement, as Representative Lawley said, then I'm just questioning private property rights because they're almost forced to agree to this easement regardless of the circumstances without compensation.
Ms. Good.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Representative Campbell, that was one of the things that I think took us out of the session last time. We went back and talked through it with the landowner groups. What we came to when we were discussing that issue is that there is already an easement. So this is not a utility coming in and saying, I'm going to put lines on your property. The lines are already there. What we have is sometimes we have out-of-state landowners. So you've got somebody who doesn't live here, who buys a section of land, lines already run across it. The landowners all around them need that power. This now out-of-state landowner doesn't want anybody on his property. Can't go in, they can't maintain those power lines. That impacts the safety of the lines. We could have fire issues, could have other problems. It also impacts the reliability of power to all the landowners around them, because they may not be able to maintain the lines so that they have that reliable power. But the question of putting a new easement in is one that this bill is not going to address. It's not going to put a new easement in, because for this bill to apply in subsection C, we said it has to have been there since 2006. I mean, it's nothing new. Has to be visible, has to be continuous use. Everybody can see it's there when they buy the land. There's no surprise. And it's not something that was abandoned and ignored. So there won't be in this particular bill's application, there won't be any new easement going in or any surprise.
All right, thank you, Ms. Good. If this bill should pass, will those easements then be recorded? And so that it follows the title of the land?
So that's a great question, Mr. Chairman. This bill does not specifically address whether they'd be recorded. I can't imagine. So these co-ops have been dealing with the handshake deal issues and trying to get those cleaned up. I can't imagine that they aren't going to record those immediately because it's in everybody's best interest.
But that's part of the problem, is they were never recorded on the handshake deal. So if we continue to make that mistake, maybe in 20 years, we got the same issue. The other question I have is, if someone, this land has traded hands and now all of a sudden we pass this bill and the land is encumbered with that right of way that is recorded, some people may think that that is takings. Is there a way of providing notification that this is happening? I know as the WREA, you guys put out monthly newsletters to all your customers. Is it possible to put that in that newsletter and say, effective July 1st, this law becomes effective and any existing easements will then now become recorded and part of ownership of the co-op?
Mr. Chairman, that's a great idea. I haven't discussed that with the utilities because we've been working on the language of the bill. I can't imagine they wouldn't do that. And Mr. Taylor's sitting here nodding his head. I think he actually handles that publication.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we would definitely put something both in the statewide magazine, the RIN magazine, as well as the individual co-op newsletters explaining what we're doing and why we did it. All I can do right now, I mean, it's not spelled out in the bill that we're going to do that, but I can just give you my word that we would make those notifications.
Representative Lawley, and
Just to bring a little bit of clarity for the committee, the recording of the easement itself is considered public notice. I think it's a good idea to put it in their magazine as well, but you need to understand that is a public notice, so as well, so.
all right, thank you. Any other questions before we move on? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any, Senator?
Just one last thing to think about here. This is probably how every bill that comes through this legislature should be built. We went to all the stakeholders. We put them all in one room. They worked together for many hours. And everybody come out with something they needed. Their concerns were addressed. Most of your questions that are asked here today were addressed as they worked together as a group. It's the right way to build a bill. They came back with a really good product that was the result of everybody working together. It answered their questions, and it's just the right way to build a bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Any other public testimony? Any other public testimony? We've got a short timeline. So do we have anybody online, Libby? No one online. Please introduce yourself and proceed.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Bruce Acey. I'm with Montana Dakota Utilities, or MDU Resources, and I'm here today to speak in favor of the bill as it was originally created by the stakeholders and to support the removal of the amendment that was provided on the floor. I would note that particularly with respect to the bill, that it is designed to simply maintain the status quo, and that is to keep things exactly as they were for decades. There been a question with respect to the possible taking and whether there's compensation due. The fact is, I don't think it's a taking, given the fact that there was an agreement at the outset. And what we have is new landowner coming in from outside. He wants to upset the apple cart. And so he wants to remove the idea that there was an easement that has existed for decades. And in fact, it was known to him as her or whoever, the new landowner, they would have seen the fact that the line is there when they purchased the property. If in fact they went to the property to see that there was an electrical line that was known and visible there. So this is what we're trying to do. Now, MDU, we're not a cooperative, we're an investor owned, but we do see the need for legislation like this that would, in fact, create a statute that would recognize the status that has existed for decades. We believe it's appropriate. We know time is short, so we support the bill, but we also support the amendment that would take it back to the I guess, the creation that the stakeholders had created and approved. Thank you. Stand for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Acey. Members, we are out of time. We're going to have to pause this until Monday and take this bill up again. Apologize if you were here for public testimony, but we have a deadline to get on the chamber floor. So with that, we'll adjourn for today and return on Monday. I don't